you have done a lot of work on the patents, particularly the use of patent, right?
Right.
And there you address this, particularly this asymmetric information problem, I think,
Right.
and how inventors and innovators try to cooperate.
Right.
And the theory doesn't provide so much help
Right.
in that in that field. But you did a very interesting study there from 1870 and to 1920, and then expanded it recently to like 200-year period almost, right? On which is basically the period of the U.S. patent system.
Right.
And so what did you find there when it comes to how these partners could overcome the asymmetric information problem, but also this trust issue that is involved, of course, when you share your ideas for money, and then you want to give, one side wants to have the money, the other one wants to say the ideas, and nobody wants to get ripped off.
Right.
So how do they sustain this?
Right. So let me back up a little bit to just articulate what the asymmetric information problems are likely to be. Okay.
In this field, that would be very great.
So a basic problem is that the people who come up with creative new technological ideas are not always the people who are best suited to commercialize those ideas. They may be dreamers, not very good business people, right? So in order to make productive use of their ideas, they often, some of them are good business people, but often they have to be able to spin these ideas off to other people who will take charge of commercializing them. And so you need a division of labor that allows inventors to specialize in what they do well and allows other people to specialize in what they do well, which is bringing ideas to market. Now, that division of labor can occur within the firm, or it can occur in the market. That is, inventors can sell off their ideas to other people who have firms that they're not connected with, but which
like licensing patents or selling patents,
Right.
or selling technology,
exactly
know-how and so on.
Right.
All kinds of private contracts.
Right. And some people think that kind of contracting for technology in the market is so difficult that it won't happen, that this will all go on inside large firms. But in fact, if you look historically, it has often gone on in the market. And so somehow these information problems, the basic information problem is if you want to buy a patent or license a patent from me or a technology from me, I have to give you enough information about that technology so that you know whether it's worth buying or not, or worth licensing or not. But if I give you all that information, you might steal my idea. Now, the patent system helps a little bit on that, but not as much as you might think, because once you know my idea, you might be able to develop a way around my patent. Right? So we have to figure out how to solve this problem, how I can give you information and feel like you won't steal my idea. Well, that's very hard to do if you're just thinking about the seller of technology communicating with the buyer. So what we really need is intermediaries who
That's
have...
what you found in your study, right?
Right, yeah.
How
So
they actually solved it. I thought that was quite interesting.
So in the middle of the 19th century, patent lawyers, patent attorneys, turn out to be the perfect people to solve this problem because they know all about inventors. They are the ones that learn about the technologies at an early stage and process the patents for them. And they often deal with the same inventor time and time again, so they develop a relationship of trust. But they are also dealing with buyers of patents, because buyers of patents hire them to essentially perform assessments of the sustainability of a patent legally, but also the value of a technology. These people are called lawyers, but they're often more likely trained technologically than they are. They're engineers, they're scientists, and so they have a lot of technological expertise. And so they develop relationships of trust to people on both sides of the market, and that allows them to perform this intermediary function to match sellers of patents with buyers of patents. And so in the late 19th century, this system emerges, and lots of technologies, in fact, sold through the market in this way.
Wow, that's fascinating. Huh? So then they find a solution basically to
Right.
this problem, right?
Right. So, and I think that's something that we see over and over again. If there's a problem, an information problem, and it's worthwhile solving it. That is, if there are economic gains to be had, people will fumble their way to a solution. No, it doesn't happen overnight, and often the stages that the first attempts to solve this go drastically wrong in some way and create scandals. But gradually people solve the problem and you get something that works. It might be imperfect in some ways, but it solves the problem and it allows this kind of transaction to go on. So in the present, we are facing this again with the recreation of a market for technology. So for a period of time after the Second World War, certainly in the United States, but I think worldwide, large firms were doing most of the generation of new technology in in-house research labs, and they were getting most of the patents. But that system began to break down in the 1970s. Large firms began to realize that these were not profitable investments for them, began to close, sometimes sell off, sometimes reduce, sometimes even close their research labs and buy more technology on the market. And in response to that new demand, lots of little people appeared in the market, innovators, startups. The economy became more dynamic. But these little people didn't have the legal firepower to defend their intellectual property if a large firm stole it from them. And so you get some temporary solutions to help them defend their intellectual property, to be intermediaries in this market. And they don't always work very well. So we call some of these solutions today trolls. And they have a very bad reputation. You know, the idea is that they're the little monster under the bridge that's extracting returns from people who want to use the technology. But I regard this as a temporary problem.
Okay. So one lesson in a sense then is not to pass too many laws.
Right. If you react,
so that this dynamism can sort of take place.
Right. If you react too strongly to a problem which is transient and pass legislation to deal with this transient problem that's going to go away, then you may create more problems then. So my message to Congress in the United States is, well, calm down. Let's just wait and see a little bit how things develop. It may be legislation is necessary, but it may be this is a blip and you will cause more problems by responding to it than you will by just relaxing and seeing what happens.
Yeah, so that's also an example a little bit of it's a long-term perspective of things, right? That you introduce with economic history.
Right.
That shows the usefulness of this kind of analysis over time and to current events, right?